foods with. How does that sound to you?" Edipon had forced himself into calmness, though a jumping muscle in his cheek betrayed his inner tension. "What you have described is truth, though you were wrong on some small things. But I am not interested in your thermometer, nor in improving our water of power. It has been good enough for my family for generations, and it is good enough for me." "I bet you think that line is original." "There is something that you might be able to do that would bring you rich rewards. We can be generous when needs be. You have seen our caroj and ridden on one, and seen me go into the shrine to intercede with the sacred powers to make us move. Can you tell me what power moves the caroj?" "I hope this is the final exam, Edipon, because you are stretching my powers of extrapolation. Stripping away all the shrines and sacred powers, I would say that you go into the engine room to do a piece of work with very little praying involved. There could be a number of ways of moving those barns, but let's think of the simplest. This is top of the head now, so no penalties if I miss any of the fine points. Internal combustion is out. I doubt if you have the technology to handle it, plus the fact that there was a lot to do about the water tank and it took you almost an hour to get underway. That sounds like you were getting up a head of steam. The safety valve! I forgot about that. So it is steam. You go in, lock the door, of course, then open a couple of valves until the fuel drips into the firebox. Then you light it. Maybe you have a pressure gauge, or maybe you just wait until the safety valve pops to tell you if you have a head of steam, which can be dangerous since a sticking valve could blow the whole works right over the mountain. Once you have the steam, you crack a valve and let it into the cylinders and get the thing moving. After that, you just enjoy the trip. Of course, making sure the water is feeding to your boiler all right, that your pressure stays up, your fire is hot enough, all your bearings are lubricated, and the rest." Jason looked on astounded as Edipon did a little jig around the room. Holding his robe up above his bony knees, bouncing with excitement, he jabbed his knife into the tabletop and rushed over to Jason and grabbed him by the shoulders, shaking him until his chain rattled. "Do you know what you have done?" he asked. "Do you know what you have said?" "I know well enough. Does this mean that I have passed the exam? Was I right?" "I don't know if you are right or not. I have never seen the inside of one of the Appsalan Devil boxes." He danced around the room again. "You know more about their, what do you call it, engine, than I do. I have only spent my life tending them and cursing the people of Appsala who keep the secret from us. But you will reveal it to us. We will build our own engines, and if they want water of power, they will have to pay dearly for it." Would you mind being a little bit clearer?" Jason pleaded. "I have never heard anything so confused in my entire life." "I will show you, man from a far world, and you will reveal the Appsalan secrets to us. I see the dawn of a new day for Putl'ko arriving." He opened the door and shouted for the guards and for his son Narsisi, who arrived as they were unlocking Jason, who recognized him as the same droop-eyed and sleepy-looking Zertano who had been helping Edipon to drive their ungainly vehicle. "Seize this chain, my son, and keep your club ready to kill this slave if he makes any attempt to escape. Otherwise, do not harm him, for he is very valuable. Come!" He tugged on the chain, but Jason only dug his heels in and did not move. They looked at him astonished. "Just a few things before we go. The man who is to bring the new day to Putl'ko is not a slave. Let us get that straight before this operation goes any further. We'll work out something with chains or guards so I can't escape, but the slavery thing is out." "But you are not one of us, therefore you must be a slave." "I've just added a third category to your social order. Employee. Though reluctant, I am still an employee, skilled labor, and I intend to be treated that way. Figure it out for yourself. Kill a slave and what do you lose? Very little if there is another slave in the pens that can push in the same place. But kill me and what do you get? Brains on your club, and they do you no good at all there." "Say, Dad, does he mean I can't kill him?" Narsisi looked puzzled as well as sleepy. "No, he doesn't mean that. He means if we kill him there is no one else that can do the work he is to do for us. I can understand him, and I do not like it. There are only slaves and slavers. Anything else is against the natural order. But he has us trapped between Satano and the sandstorm, so we must allow him some freedoms. Bring the slave now, I mean the employee, and we will see if he can do the things he has promised. If he does not, I will have the pleasure of killing him because I do not like his revolutionary ideas." They marched single file to a locked and guarded building with immense doors, which were pulled open to reveal the massive forms of 7 Caroi. "Look at them," Edipon hissed and tugged at his nose. "The finest and most beautiful constructions, striking fear into our enemies' hearts, carrying us fleetingly across the sands, bearing on their backs immense loads, and only 3 of the things are able to move." "Engine trouble?" Jason asked lightly. Edipon grumbled, cursed, and fumed under his breath, and led the way to an inner courtyard where stood 4 immense black boxes, painted with death heads, splintered bones, fountains of blood, and cabalistic symbols of a sinister appearance. "Those swine in Appsala take our water of power and give nothing in return. Oh, yes, they let us use their engines, but after running for a few months the cursed things stop and will not go again. Then we must bring them back to the city to exchange for a new one, and pay again and again." "A nice racket," Jason said, looking at the sealed coverings on the engines. "Why don't you just crack into them and fix them yourself? They can't be very complex." "That is death," Edipon gasped, and both D'zertanoj recoiled from the boxes at the thought. "We have tried that in my father's father's day, since we are not superstitious like the slaves and know that these are man-made, not God-made. However, the tricky serpents of Appsala hide their secrets with immense cunning. If any attempt is made to break the covering, horrible death leaks out and fills the air. Men who breathe the air die, and even those who are solely touched by it develop immense blisters and die in pain. The men of Appsala laughed when this happened to our people, and after that raised the price even higher." Jason circled one of the boxes, examining it with interest, trailing Narsisi behind him at the end of the chain. The thing was higher than his head and almost twice as long. A heavy shaft emerged through openings on opposite sides, probably the power takeoff for the wheels. Through an opening in the side he could see inset handles and 2 small colored discs, and above this were 3 funnel-shaped openings, shaped and painted like mouths. By standing on tiptoe, Jason looked on the top, but there was only a flanged, sooty opening that might be for the attachment of a smokestack. There was only one more opening, a smallish one in the rear, and no other controls on the garish container. "I'm beginning to get the picture, but you will have to tell me how you work the controls." "Death before that!" Narsisi shouted. "Only my family—" "Will you shut up?" Jason shouted right back. "Remember? You're not allowed to browbeat the help anymore. There are no secrets here. Not only that, but I probably know more about this thing than you do just by looking at it. Oil, water, and fuel go in these 3 openings. You poke a light in somewhere, probably in that smoky hole under the controls. Open one of those valves for fuel supply, another one is to make the engine go slower and faster, and the third is for your water feed. The discs are indicators of some kind." Narsisi paled and stepped back. "So keep the trap shut while I talk to your dad?" "It is as you say," Edipon pointed. "The mouths must always be filled, and woe betide if they shall go empty, for the powers will halt or worse. Fire goes in here as you guessed, and when the green finger comes forward this lever may be turned for motion. The next is for great speed or going slow. The very last is under the sign of the red finger, which when it points indicates need, and the handle must be turned and held until the finger retires. White breath comes from the opening in back. That is all there is." "About what I expected," Jason muttered, and examined the container wall, rapping it with his knuckles until it boomed. "They give you the minimum of controls to run the thing, so you won't learn anything about the basic principles involved. Without the theory you would never know what the handles control, or that the green indicator comes out when you have operating pressure, or the red one when the water level is low in the boiler. Very neat. And the whole thing sealed up in a can and booby trapped in case you have any ideas of going into business for yourself. The cover sounds like it is double walled, and from your description I would say that it has one of the vesicant war gases, like mustard gas, sealed inside there in liquid form. Anyone who tries to cut their way in will quickly forget their ambitions after a dose of that. Yet "There must be a way to get inside the case and service the engine. They aren't going to